What is up, one and all? Welcome to a new video. Today we'll be talking about Batman Arkham Knight, one of the more controversial releases of 2015, and for very obvious reasons. The elephant in the room being the PC version of this game. I mean, think of it like this: you release the game on 3 different platforms. If 1/3 of your game is messed up, in other words, the PC version, then that's a pretty significant hit on the game's reputation. And that's not to say that the whole game is bad, because there are some great things about this game that I really want to talk about and highlight. Despite the fact that, you know, I play this on the PC version, despite the fact that it really isn't that playable, and it is pretty much just as horrible as everyone is saying it is. I'm going to talk about this as I would talk about any of the other Arkham games, for its story, its gameplay, its world, all of that combined into one video. So guys, we're not going to dilly-dally any further. Let's just provide some thoughts on Batman Arkham Knight. Just to give you a very brief overview of what happened here with the PC version of this game, for those of you who are kind of under the radar, or you played this game primarily on the consoles, or you're not aware of what happened with the PC version, why it was such a big deal. Rocksteady is a AAA developer, WB is a AAA publisher, and the reputation, based off of the previous games, would have you believe that this was going to be a very well optimized game on the PC. Arkham Knight comes out in June, and it is a dumpster fire. Nothing short of a dumpster fire on the PC. PC players everywhere are outraged, and thanks to this new Steam refunding system, which was the whole reason this game got pulled off the Steam store. You know, the second day this game was out on PC, it got pulled directly off of Steam because of how broken it was. Rocksteady and WB made a pledge to patch the game up to snuff, up to perfection, and when that would happen, then they would re-release it. Of course, it happens many months later, in October. They finally re-released the game. It's better, it's definitely playable, but it's not perfect, and it's definitely not anywhere as well optimized as it should be. Take this into account. If you want to look at my PC specs in the comments below, in the description below, you're welcome to. And in fact, I encourage it, just to make sure we're on the same page here. I have a GTX 970, which is one of the more top-end graphics cards you can get right now. Sure, this game is more graphically intensive, and I mean, just look at it. It looks beautiful. You know, the rain effects, the lighting, the color contrast, just the overall art design of this game is phenomenal. It's one of the best looking games of 2015. But yeah, there's still issues with it. It stutters. You know, there's parts where you're driving the Batmobile through the streets, and like the whole game will just kind of freeze up, and a loading thing will pop up at the bottom, and you know, there's also a lot of texture errors too. Like there'll be some areas or rooftops of the city that are just completely blank, and I'm like, what happened here? It's funny too, because when this game first came out on the PC, it was locked at 30 FPS. You could change that now, but it's funny. People have noticed that there's actually more intensive weather effects on the 30 FPS lock. That's really quite sad. That is just unacceptable for a game in 2015 from such a prestigious developer, especially one of the most anticipated games of 2015, and it just fell flat on its face on the PC. I have no idea what went through WB's head when they decided, okay, yeah, the game's ready, let's put it on a PC, but it is honestly one of the most stupid-ass decisions of 2015 for the gaming industry. It's going to take a very, very long time for anybody to forget about this. If you want to play Batman Arkham Knight, get on the PS4, Xbox One, and then we'll talk aces. I played on PC. It was playable, but not as well as it should have been. So let's move on from that, and we're going to talk about the game itself. So here we are back with Rocksteady's Batman. You know, we took a departure from just WB Montreal's Arkham Origins, and now we're back to Rocksteady with Arkham Knight. How is the story? It's not the worst, but it's definitely not the best. In fact, if I had to rank the stories of the Arkham series, I'd probably put it City, Asylum, Knight, then Origins, Knight, barely above Origins, mostly because Knight's story suffers from the same problems as Origins, where it fills the story with these meaningless twists, and there's more than before. Some of them are kind of interesting and neat, and the anticipation, the build-up for those twists are definitely exciting, but ultimately, none of it is really that memorable. Now, there are some fun things they do with the story that you may have noticed, people may have talked about. For one, Batman gets infected by fear toxin. Of course, Scarecrow's taking over Gotham, so fear toxin's a very prevalent thing. He gets hallucinations of the Joker, and so you'll see the Joker throughout the entire game, and perhaps Mark Hamill's one of the best swan song performances he could have given at the Joker. And in this way, the game kind of explores the dynamic between Batman and Joker, and that stuff is actually really interesting and more well done than I thought it was in Arkham Origins. Everything else, though, I cannot really speak for. The Arkham Knight the villain is disappointing. The twist, his character is just one big build up to a twist that is disappointing. It's not hard to figure out. I might as well just spoil it, but I won't, you know. And of course, Scarecrow, he doesn't get as much time in the game as you'd want him to. And then overall, the cast of villains here is far weaker than it was in previous games. You know, the campaigns in the previous games featured most of the villains. Some of them were in the most wanted content. For the most part, most of the villains were in the campaign, had a big involvement in that. In this game, pretty much any villain except the Arkham Knight and the Scarecrow, and I guess that's it, are featured in the most wanted content. In fact, I think a good third of this campaign is just setting up most wanted missions that you can do in the side content. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I don't know what else to say. I'm really disappointed with the story, and I think that's because they actually had the same writer as Origins. Here, look, guys, alright, get the writer you had for City. He wrote a damn good story there, and I think he could have done that here, but you guys didn't do that, so whatever, you know. And now for the gameplay itself. I love the Arkham gameplay. I've always loved the Arkham gameplay. In my mind, there are a couple action-adventure games that really lead the genre. I think more so than any other genre. There's actual leaders in the action-adventure genre. Naughty Dog with Uncharted is one of those. And I think the other game that has a really big, profound effect is the Arkham series. The philosophy with gameplay, not just with combat, but also with stealth, with gadgets, with puzzles, with pretty much everything in Arkham Knight, is that bigger is better. Indeed, the combat is more expansive than ever. It's faster, it's more fluid, there's more enemy types, there's more moves you can use, more combos that you can utilize. The stealth, there are different types of takedowns. It's more convenient to do certain types of takedowns now. There's wider variety of enemies that you have to deal with, more precautions you have to take when stealthing, different ways to stealth. When it comes to the puzzles, there's way more gadgets than ever, which means there's different types of puzzles now, including your Batmobile, which we will talk about. But for now, of course, there's a lot of gadgets, which means a lot of puzzles. And all of that is kind of honed in on the Arkham series' great level design. All of that is freaking awesome and amazing. And if that was the whole game, this probably would get a higher pick, a higher priority for Game of the Year for a lot of people, including me. Despite all this great gameplay, there's one big thing that kind of completely demeans all of that. It kind of just says, well, all of that is great, but we think this thing is better, when in actuality it's not. Yes, that is the Batmobile, the mother effing Batmobile. I mean, here's the thing. If you wanted to innovate, Rocksteady really wanted to go out with a bang with this game. They wanted to create the ultimate Batman game. They gave you Gotham City as an open world. They gave you so many new features. They expanded the features they already had to make it more accessible and more fun than has ever been before. And on all those fronts, they succeeded. But I think they went a little too far with introducing the Batmobile. I would have loved to see the Batmobile in the series at some point. I remember thinking, well, you know, if they wanted to do something new with the series, maybe give us Gotham City, give us the Batmobile. This thing you drive around in Arkham Knight is a full-blown militarized battle tank that shoots pellets at criminals and blows up drones. There's no manned tanks in this game, which is kind of silly. You know, I get having a lot of drones, but just unrealistic. Sure, it's a comic book game, but the only reason they're there is because it's showing, oh, Batman's not going to kill people. And it's just a convention in the gameplay that, in my mind, is a little too convenient. But that's, at best, probably a nitpick. Another one of those things that really clashes with the whole Batman experience is the fact that you're driving a tank around the city and you can tear ass and basically just demolish public property wherever you go. Everything in this game is virtually breakable, except, of course, you know, solidly structured buildings, which of course I'd hope they wouldn't be breakable, but pretty much everything on the streets, from, you know, fences to terraces to just statues and trees and everything, you can just plow through the streets like there's no tomorrow, running into criminals, and it's just, it's not very Batman-like. It is kind of fun for the first time when you get it, and it definitely has some cool things about it. It's just a cool vehicle. You can't deny that. And car chases are fun as well, though. They require no skill, and they're fairly one-note. It's basically you just chase enemies down, APC units or unmanned drones or whatever, and you wait for your lock to completely lock on, and press B, bam, shoot, kaboom. Stuff happens. And that's pretty much that's all it takes. You know, just keep in range of them and just press B when necessary. It's really dumbed down, and it requires no skill, and it's not very fun. It's visually cool to look at, but it's just not very fun. And the same thing can kind of be said for the atrocious Batmobile combat system. Given the caliber of gameplay that you get with the stealth and the combat and the puzzles in this game, given, you know, the kind of tactical thought that is layered into all of those systems. In this game, though, when it comes to the Batmobile combat, and pretty much anything having to do with the Batmobile, there's very, very simple tactical gameplay. Here's what it is. You know, the drones come up, they point a laser at you, you get out of the way of the laser, and you're fine. And that's pretty much all it is. It's just dodging lasers, which takes really very little skill. You just have to press A and move in the direction you want to go, bam, dodge laser, and then you shoot. Just boring to endlessly shoot at armies and heaps of drones and drones and drones. And it's not to say it's not difficult. They certainly try to make it difficult, but instead of being difficult, it just ends up being frustrating. There's shooting, but you have very limited weaponry. You have a rattle, like a machine gun, and then you have a cannon. The cannon fires very, very slowly, yet it is your primary weapon. The rattle gun can basically destroy nothing except the panels on some drones, which one hit kills it, but the aiming with it is just horrible, so it's not really worth it to begin with. Then on top of that, as you're building up combos with your cannons and your machine gun, as you're blowing up tanks, you'll build up a combo, and with that combo, you can activate missiles, you can hack drones, you can do a whole bunch of fun stuff that is cool and exciting and fun to look at, but requires no skill. The Batmobile combat is in this game way too many times. I don't know why or at what point they figured, alright, we're going to keep putting this combat in there until they like it. It really, in my mind, looking back on it, was just a way to artificially lengthen the campaign. It just kind of overshadows all the other great gameplay aspects of this game, and that's why, like I said, I think it brings down, having the Batmobile there so much, brings down the whole game, because the game is trying to make you focus on one thing that sucks and not on the other three things that are great, and the game would have benefited so much more if it just took out that Batmobile and let you deal with what the game has. To wrap up this video, we're going to talk about the open world. I gotta say this, Gotham City looks phenomenal. It's never looked better in a video game. I know DC Universe Online has attempted their own open world Gotham, but it's filled with so much emptiness, and there's a few landmarks here and there that are worth going to, but the Gotham City here is amazing. It is truly phenomenal how detailed the world here is. The environmental artists from Arkham City, hell yeah, they're back. I missed them when I played Arkham Origins, because a lot of the streets in that game were empty and identical, and it might have been fun to walk around in them, but you never spent time on the streets. In this game, you'll spend time on the rooftops and the streets, pretty much everywhere you can, because everything in this game is just so detailed in the open world. There's so much Easter eggs and secrets and just so many unique areas and regions. It's really phenomenal, and I must compliment the environmental artist at Rocksteady for what they pulled off here with Gotham City. That being said, I really can't say the same for what they chose to fill the open world with, the side content they chose to fill it with. There's a big problem now with open world games where they're basically becoming go here, do this simulators, just activity simulators, or, you know, Ubisoft style open worlds, I like to call them, where it's just a collectathon and just a repeated mission that artificially lengthens the amount of side content for no meaning whatsoever. It falls victim to something that the Arkham series and its open worlds have never really done, you know, not in Arkham Origins and not Arkham City, and that's make very artificial feeling content. The content in this game is broken down into most wanted missions, and you get ones for different villains. There are a few that are fun, but overall, the whole thing is just so artificial feeling. I don't even feel like I'm having fun when I'm playing these things. I feel like I'm just moving a percentage wheel along. Literally, the side content in this game, to access it, you press the D-pad and it pulls up all the most wanted missions and shows the percent completion or the fraction of completion on all of them. And I can't tell you how devaluing that was for me to see that, because it completely goes against what an open world should be about, which is total immersion. This is almost like they built in one of those official game guides into the game that says, oh, here you go, when you do this, you'll be 33% done with the campaign. When you do this, you'll be, 66% done with the most wanted mission, and it completely clashes with what the previous Arkham games did, where they had meaningful engagements in their side content. Sure, there is a villain to all these most wanted missions, and sure, there is a cool encounter, but some of them are kind of wasted. For example, Deathstroke is in this game. He has a boss battle, but it's reduced to a tank. That's disappointing. And that's another complaint I might as well make before we wrap up this video, is the boss battles. Where were they? This is a series that's known for boss battles. It's Arkham City. Oh my gosh, the Mr. Freeze fight, the Ra's al Ghul fight, the Clayface fight. And then look at Arkham Origins. That game, you know, for all the other complaints people made, the boss battles in that game were pretty phenomenal. I mean, the Bane boss fights, the Deathstroke boss fight, which is one of the coolest boss fights in a video game that I can think of, but it's nowhere to be found in Arkham Knight, and that's another thing that really brings the game down, is it's just lacking those amazing boss battles. And that's another reason the campaign might have been forgettable, because there wasn't a lot of those boss battles. So guys, what can I say? Batman Arkham Knight. There's some great things. There's some truly amazing things about this game. The combat, the stealth, the puzzles, the level design, the open world looks beautiful, the gliding is fun. You know, it's a graphically well-looking game. And there's some great, phenomenal moments in the story. At the same time, though, there's some disappointments in the gameplay. The Batmobile, of course, is a big reason the game is not as good as it could be. The lack of villains in the campaign, the lack of good boss battles, the total repetitive and artificial feeling side content, and the story as a whole that's filled with meaningful twists. Like I said, great moments in it, but it's just filled with some empty twists. So take this game all together, it's just one big okay. Like, it's a pretty good game, but not as great as it should have been for all the hype that was surrounding it, and for all the years Rocksteady had to work on this game. Keep in mind, they were working on this game when, you know, Montreal was making Arkham Origins. So this has been in the making since Arkham City. That's a pretty big deal. You know, they've had a lot of time to work on this game, and the final product just did not live up to my expectations, and it's kind of disappointing. Now, while it sounds like I probably really deplore this game and don't like it at all, I actually really like some elements of it, and looking back on it, it's a pretty enjoyable experience. But like I said, it could have been a lot better than what it actually was. So, what did you guys think of Batman Arkham Knight if you have played it? Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you not like it? Did you hate it? What did you think of the Batmobile specifically? Did you like that, or did you not like that? I think that's a make or break point for a lot of people. You know, if you don't like the Batmobile, chances are you didn't like the game. If you did, you probably liked it a lot. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Stay tuned for thoughts on Fallout 4. I'll probably be doing that with my friend Liberty, and then my best of 2015, and then my most anticipated for 2016. That's pretty much all I gotta say, guys. Thank you all for watching. I'll be seeing you all later.